Hey y'all, it's Shanice. This is your weekly astrology forecast for February the 9th through February the 15th, 2026. And this is a collective reading. So we are focusing on the signs, the degrees, and how to use this energy in real life. Now, this week has three big themes, very, very big themes. We start with the final quarter moon phase happening on Monday. So there's a turning point or some form of release energy and a reroute to the plan or the vibe of what you are going through. The second theme is Saturn entering Aries on Friday the 13th, which is a major collective shift around pressure, leadership, self-discipline, and boundaries. And those of you who have Saturn in Aries, this will start your Saturn return. And the third theme is the Aquarius intensity starting to build as we move into the dark moon phase. And we end the week with the sun in Aquarius forming a square to Uranus in Taurus, which can bring plot twists, surprises, and sudden changes. Now, who's most affected by the energy this week? If you have any placements, Sun, Moon, Rising, Mercury, Venus, or Mars near these degrees that I'm about to mention, you'll feel this week's energy the loudest. Now, the first group is fixed signs between 20 to 27 degrees. That's Aquarius, Leo, Taurus, and Scorpio. This is where the tension and the plot twist energy hits. It's a change in maybe your decisions. You might have sudden realizations, and fixed signs tend to not really change often. It's a fixed sign. So Uranus in Taurus at the final degrees is offering a new way or a new approach to how you do things, fixed signs. And I also, I have my Scorpio moon at 27 degrees, and I've been feeling this energy intensely. Literally, some days I wake up and I have a lot of energy, and some days I wake up and I don't want to get out of bed. That's very much my second house and Uranus and my moon all talking to each other with my sun. So that makes a lot of sense. And something that I've personally been doing and noticing within my life is if I've been running into a lot of resistance, to allow that resistance to play out and show me what I need to do. And for me, that has been resting and just taking a break. Saturn is in my 12th house of rest. So, and all of these planets are literally talking to each other in my chart: Uranus, Saturn, my moon, my sun, and my Chiron placement. So I've been really paying attention to the energy and what it's telling me to do, the synchronicities in my life. And maybe that's something that you can also do if you are listening to this podcast. I find that we usually have degree placements around the same sign of the people that we usually run in contact with. So pay attention and see if you have anything in the fixed signs, Aquarius, Leo, Taurus, and Scorpio at 27 to 29 degrees. You might need to rest. You might need to pay attention to the resistance that might show up in your life. The next group of signs are cardinal signs around 23 degrees. That's Aries, Libra, Cancer, and Capricorn. Anything around 23 degrees can feel like I need to respond differently now with that Chiron energy, learning about your wounds around identity and how you show up and take care of yourself, and stand up for yourself. The last group of signs are mutable signs around 9 degrees. That's that North Node energy activating this 9th degree in mutable signs. So that's Pisces, Virgo, Gemini, and Sagittarius. Mercury, which is now in Pisces right now, is forming a conjunction with the North Node and opposing the South Node. So this is a moment that can feel like a message, some sort of choice that's faded, or like a fork in the road type of energy. And if you don't know the degrees or your natal chart placement, that is no problem. Just listen to the themes and you will start to recognize how this is manifesting in your life. Now, let's dig deeper into each of these themes, starting with the final quarter moon phase. It's a release and a reroute type of energy. We start the week with the final quarter moon, and that's built in energy of this isn't working, I'm done forcing it, and what needs to be adjusted before the next reset. So, some practical translations or interpretations of this energy is clean up, refine, and simplify. It's not the time to take on 12 new goals or tasks. It's the time to drop what is draining you with that final quarter moon phase. So that's basically the sun in Aquarius forming a square to the moon in Scorpio. The moon is fallen in Scorpio. I have my natal moon in Scorpio. So this can feel a bit intense. It can feel like everything is bubbling up and you really don't know how to move with this energy. Again, this is not telling you to take on 12 new tasks or to try and control, because Scorpio loves controlling things. This is asking you to drop what feels draining, what no longer aligns with whatever it is that you have been working on. Now, the theme number 2, Saturn entering Aries on a Friday the 13th, how ironic is that, is mature action. So Saturn moving into Aries is one of the bigger collective shifts this year. Aries is all about action, identity, leadership, and boundaries. And Saturn is responsibility, structure, and reality. So this combo is really giving us to, or showing us to take ourselves seriously, learn discipline without self punishment, leadership through consistency, not ego, and building endurance and restraint. So, this energy is catered towards slow strength building. It's that slow strength type of energy. Try not to be impulsive, reckless, or prove your point. Just stay grounded in your efforts. Um, I am an Aries rising. I've been feeling this shift for about a month now. And it's honestly, I feel a bit more mature. I remember telling my friend recently, for the first time in my life, I feel like an adult, I guess. I'm starting to see how this energy is manifesting, even though Saturn is at the final degree of Pisces. It's closing out that Pisces energy in our charts, whatever has been going on for the past 3 years while Saturn has been there. It's closing that energy out. I've talked to a lot of people who feel burnt out, who feel like they don't really want to connect with media. A lot of people are not really into like celebrity culture anymore, or like, trends. That's that Saturn and Pisces energy. It's asking you to really retreat and rest and get grounded in your own beliefs, your own discipline, your own spiritual practices. And Saturn in Aries, it's ruling the identity. So look to see what house Aries is in your birth chart. Pay attention to those themes of the house that Aries is in, and this will tell you what Saturn is asking you to build more discipline and structure around. Aries rules identity, how we take action, independence, courage, impulse, and leadership. And Saturn slows whatever sign it enters. So it slows down that energy. So Saturn in Aries becomes learning how to act with more maturity. It's not suppressing action, not avoiding action. It's disciplined type of action. So this Saturn in Aries transit might teach the collective patience in decision making, emotional regulation before action, leadership through responsibility, courage that lasts and not just burst. It's restraint without losing your identity. Aries normally says to go now. It's a very impulsive sign, but with Saturn there, it says to build it correctly. And together, it's action with intention. Now, let's talk about the shadow side of Saturn in Aries. This transit can feel like frustration, slow momentum, insecurity about your identity, fear of taking action, anger, and needing structure around that rage and anger, learning boundaries the hard way. So many people could feel like, why does everything feel harder all of a sudden? Because Saturn is teaching us endurance, not speed. And personally, as an Aries rising, this past weekend with the moon in Scorpio squaring Pluto, I received my first death threat on threads on social media. And it was kind of sad, honestly, because I've been in therapy for a long time, and I've also taken like a lot of psychology courses. So I understand people on a deeper level. It was a burner account, I guess. That person had no followers or nothing really on their page. And they weren't really following anybody either. So I knew that this was someone who was probably hurting, someone who probably feels misunderstood a lot because they misunderstood me with the post that I made. I was going and ranting about autism and how people basically online, I see everybody's saying that they're autistic now. And honestly, as an autistic person, and I'm newly medically diagnosed with autism, it's a bit frustrating because I've learned so much about this diagnosis. And honestly, a lot of things in mental health, like a lot of mental health illnesses overlap. So sometimes autism or bipolar can kind of, intertwine, and those symptoms can show up. This is why a lot of people get misdiagnosed, or like OCD can show up. I have a lot of OCD traits as an autistic person. A lot of that was due to trauma as well with CPCSD. That's another mental disorder that overlaps with autism. So a lot of people are finding language around mental health, but they aren't going to seek mental health counseling or therapy professionally. And I understand that some people, don't have the resources to do so, but there's YouTube, there's psychiatrists and psychologists on YouTube that are offering guidance and help. And I just want people to not assume that they're autistic, and to really go and seek help, because it's a neurodevelopmental disorder. And a lot of the time, people are just experiencing complex post-traumatic stress disorder, especially if you live in America. The media does not help with that, and it can trigger a lot of trauma. So I saw that. I said all that to say, Saturn and Aries for me has shown up, ironically, or starting to show up as death threats from being misunderstood. And that is with the Neptune and Aries as well. It's easy for people to misunderstand me. I'm also working on my tone. I have Mercury conjunct Leo. So I know that sometimes I can come off as being very bold and kind of tactless, and I'm working on that as well. But if you misunderstand me, or if I say something that triggers you, please ask for clarification. I am not trying to hurt anybody's feelings. I'm not trying to disrespect anyone. Someone called me homophobic. I didn't even mention anything about um like being homosexual or anything like that. I was talking about asexuality and autism, which I am both, by the way. I've been asexual my entire life. You can ask anybody who grew up with me. I did not date. I had maybe like one boyfriend in high school, but other than that, I don't typically date. I don't typically find people sexually attractive. It takes a while for me to build sexual attraction, and I've been that way since I was a child. Since all throughout school, even in my 20s. And this is why I'm talking about it a bit more, because a lot of people are starting to develop asexuality or identify as asexual, and a lot of that is due to trauma in their experiences, and there's nothing to be ashamed of for that. It's learning and understanding your patterns and understanding why you are starting to identify with certain things. A lot of people just write off the shadow work, but I really believe that people should do the shadow work to understand themselves better. It's okay if you identify as asexual or heterosexual or homosexual or pansexual, but understanding the root of why you identify as those things is very much Saturn and Neptune and Aries. And I'm an Aries rising, so I might have or talk about this a bit more in future episodes, because this is something that I've also worked through. I literally have been in therapy since 2014. And I've also had conversations with my therapist about me possibly being homosexual at one point. And we worked through it, and I understood why I was feeling those things, and understood basically, no, I'm not homosexual. I identify as asexual and I prefer men, but honestly, I prefer myself. So, like, this is something that I've worked through, and it's not anything to be ashamed of. Um, and also, there's so much I can talk about with therapy in itself. I've had terrible providers, I've had great providers, and therapy is kind of like a relationship. This is something that I like to tell people. And when I was doing readings, I would tell my clients, it's like finding a relationship. It's not easy. Sometimes you will come across therapists who are not really good at their jobs, and that's with anything in life. So don't give up or write therapy off because of a provider or something just not sitting with you. Don't give up. Try and research and find providers or a care team that is suitable for you. It took me literally over a decade to finally have a team that actually listens to me and see me, and not try to just give me drugs to shut me up. If you have any questions about medication, I probably can answer those too. I've been on a lot of mental health medication over the years. So I just want people to know that if I do speak online about these things, I'm not trying to trigger anyone or cause any confusion or conflict. I am trying to help, honestly. And if you misunderstand me, or if I trigger you in some way, please ask for clarification. This is very much Saturn and Neptune and Aries energy, everything that I just expressed. So it's easy for people to misunderstand me at this point of my life because Saturn and Neptune are both in Aries. That makes more sense to me. So anyway, I'm kind of going on a tangent. Let's get to the healthy expressions of Saturn and Aries. At its best, Saturn and Aries can create calm leadership, emotional self-control, consistent habits, strong boundaries, confidence built through effort, self-trust through discipline. This transit works more of like a quiet type of shift. So if you start to see people less on social media, Saturn and Aries, Neptune and Aries, and Saturn, this honestly next week, I believe, it's either this, I think it's next week, looking at the notes. But next week, Saturn and Neptune will form a conjunction in Aries at 0 degrees. So this is a powerful combination in the sky. We've honestly been feeling this for about a year. So if you've been running into a lot of reality checks, your delusions getting crushed, that's Saturn and Neptune together in Pisces, but they will finally go exact in Aries at 0 degrees. So this is a fresh start in our identities and everything that we've learned in regards to the reality checks that we've been getting. So this is a powerful combination, and it can show up as your identity becoming more real and grounded and solid, spiritual identity becoming more embodied, illusions about yourself are starting to dissolve, discipline, courage, realistic faith, rebuilding identity after confusion. And collectively, this tends to coincide with shifts in leadership models, what we are seeing politically. I personally don't watch the news. I kind of just glance or scroll past it. I won't say that I ignore it completely, but I definitely do not invest all of my energy into the news. So we are, from what I've seen and gathered, there is a lot of truths coming out within our collective when it comes to politicians and celebrities, the elites, or, the influential people in our lives. So with Saturn and Neptune meeting together, this is a shift in our leadership models. It's redefining independence. We can see spiritual movements becoming more practical, disillusionment with false heroes, people reclaiming their personal identity. And psychologically, it often feels like I can't pretend to be someone I'm not anymore. And also, I need to build a real life, not just an imagined one. So, the simplest way to understand this cycle that we are entering in with Saturn and Neptune both in Aries and forming that conjunction is to ask three things. Who are you really? What do you believe? What do you actually believe? And what are you willing to build consistently? That's honestly all you can really ask yourself with this conjunction. If you want, I can go into detail about this a little further in another episode. Just leave a comment wherever you are listening to this podcast. So that is enough about Saturn and Neptune and Aries. We're going to get into the third theme, which is the Aquarius intensity. Honestly, to me, it's symbolizing a change in the system. We are currently in Pluto's return for America, so that makes a lot of sense. And Aquarius energy is the collective. It's the social group think, popularity contest, community. So Aquarius energy is getting loud this week. We are closing out Aquarius season with a partial solar eclipse on the 17th, on the 17th. So Uranus, literally the modern ruler of Aquarius, just stationed direct last week. And this week we are entering into the dark moon phase of this partial solar eclipse for Aquarius energy. So the moon is entering Aquarius this week, forming a conjunction with Pluto, and then the sun is forming a square to Uranus, which the sun is at the final degrees of Aquarius this week. So this can show up as sudden insight, needing more freedom, breaking patterns, realizing you've outgrown something. This can also be tech and community shifts. So this energy is asking us pivot where you've been stuck. And honestly, personally, I've been having a lot of tech glitches. Like yesterday, I was trying to record this podcast and I was having issues trying to get the notes and record. And honestly, it wasn't until this morning I was able to. So I've been trying to get back on a routine of recording on Sundays and uploading on Mondays, but this energy was just not having it. It was like rest, relax, ruminate if you need to, get creative, but no podcast recording on Sunday. So if you've been noticing any tech glitches or resistance in your life, pay attention to that. Now let's get into the day by day breakdown, starting with Monday, February the 9th, with the final quarter moon in Scorpio. So we start Monday with the moon in Scorpio, and the final quarter moon phase happening early in the day when most of us are either waking up or still asleep. So this final quarter moon phase can feel like an emotional detox. It can feel like asking yourself questions or telling yourself, I can't keep pretending. You are starting to crave truth and needing to cut cords with something that is draining you potentially. And then later in the day, we have the moon in Scorpio forming an opposition with Uranus in Taurus. So this is unexpected feelings, sudden shifts, surprise conversations. This could also be mood swings and reality checks. But when most of us fall asleep or are going to sleep, the moon in Scorpio will form a trine to Saturn at 29 degrees of Pisces. So this is some stabilizing energy that you might wake up feeling, or you might feel while you're going to bed. You can ground in it. And you can also choose maturity, choose the mature option in whatever situation that you are going through with this energy. The best use for Monday is to declutter your mind and your space and to journal about what you have done, what you are done with, like what have you been working on and noticing and are done with. You can also choose to make the practical decision in whatever you are going through. So watch out for spiraling or obsessing, doom scrolling, or trying to control some sort of outcome. Scorpio energy loves control. Like I said, I have my natal moon in Scorpio, and I have a really, really hard time with control. And Saturn and Pisces has been teaching me to literally release control. I was just talking to my brother about our father's death and how I was able to see that in astrology. I remember telling my dad a year before he died that something was going to happen, looking at the astrology before his birthday. And then the year that he died in January, I started to get this intuitive ping, this intuitive feeling of him passing away. And I tried to call him. He wasn't picking up the phone. I literally was trying to control the outcome of my dad's death, is what I'm trying to say. And the astrology aligned perfectly around that time. And like I said, this Scorpio moon that we are in right now, a lot of people might not be aware of where they try to control things. So if you are trying to control something, you have there's a chokehold of control within your life in a situation. Try and release that energy. Work on something grounding and practical instead. This is what that Uranus and moon opposition on Monday is asking us. Tuesday, February the 10th, Venus enters Pisces. Venus is exalted in Pisces. This is helping us this eclipse season, honestly. And it's like kind of like a bit of a break. Honestly, it's showing up as a bit of a break in the cosmos, in the heavens. And then the moon on Tuesday moves into Sagittarius. So Venus entering Pisces is soft, romantic, artistic, spiritual, and tender. And the healthy energy or the healthy interpretation of Venus in Pisces is compassion, forgiveness, sweetness, and creativity. Now, the unhealthy manifestation of Venus in Pisces is idealizing, ignoring red flags, and emotional spending, not really, listening to your own intuition, but trying to like emotionally invest in something that is honestly a delusion. So right at midnight on Tuesday, or if you are on the West Coast or like the Midwest area, um, the moon will square Venus at 29 degrees on Tuesday. And this is emotional friction. And it can feel like what you feel versus what's actually realistic. So pay attention to your feelings and reality. We are in some reality check type of energy. And with this conjunction starting to form exact, we are getting our answers louder. So if you are a bit still confused, by the end of next week, you will have more of an understanding on what direction you need to take and what's going on in your life, what you've been delusional about, and what you can work practically on. So the moon enters Sagittarius and it brings perspective, meaning, truth, and honesty. And the best use for Tuesday's energy is to choose truth, not fantasy. Write down what you actually need, commit to one clear boundary, and watch out for romanticizing situations or people, confusing vibes for facts, or oversharing and regretting it later. Now, Wednesday, February the 11th, the sun will form a sextile to Chiron in Aries. The sun is in Aquarius. And so Wednesday has supportive growth through honesty type of energy. It's healing through accountability, confidence from doing the actual work. And the Sagittarius moon is good for action, running errands, even content creation. It's publishing type of energy, Sagittarius. And so this is great for aligning yourself with your creativity or like some sort of education work or teaching or in some way. The best use for Wednesday's energy is to say what needs to be said cleanly and take one brave action to do something that builds confidence. Now, watch out for acting like you're fine when you're not. Sagittarius tends to do that. Um, and also, we're in Aquarius season. Aquarius and Sagittarius form a sextile to each other. They both share a lot of traits. So, Aquarius energy tends to do that as well. It's easy to act like you're fine when you're not and pushing too hard. But rest and paying attention to your body cues and what's going on is really important this week, especially on Wednesday. Now, Thursday, Mercury in Pisces will form a conjunction with the North Node. Mercury is getting ready to station retrograde in Pisces, so we will have this energy for quite a while, maybe like a month or two. And so this energy can show up as into being more connected to your intuition and, not really seeing things clearly. It's kind of hard to plan too with Mercury in Pisces. Mercury, I said last week, Mercury is fallen. I meant to say detriment. Mercury is in its detriment in Pisces. So organizing and commuting and talking can get a little foggy or unclear with Mercury in Pisces. But on Thursday, with this North Node conjunction opposite the South Node in Virgo, this can look like some sort of important news, realizations you can't unsee, directions on decisions that you need to take, or conversations that change your mind. Then the moon will shift on this day into Capricorn, and it can feel like pressure, fog, and then all of a sudden you start to get more clarity. The best way to use Thursday's energy is to take notes, like literally take notes, verify details. Mercury is in its detriment in Pisces. So make sure you're writing things down that are important, and being more mindful about the way that you communicate, being more grounded, intentional in the way that you communicate. That's the best way to use this energy when Mercury is in detriment. And it's also choosing practical. I keep talking about practical, but that's because I have Virgo placements. The South Node is in Virgo. So being more practical and grounded in your steps can help with Thursday's energy. Watch out for assuming you know what someone means. That's that Mercury in its detriment and its negative expression. Making emotional decisions because you are tired. Again, Mercury in its detriment in Pisces. It's kind of easy to do those things when Mercury is in detriment. This is why I'm saying to take notes and be very detailed and practical in your actions while Mercury is in Pisces, especially on Thursday. Now, Friday, one of the biggest days of the week, Saturn entering Aries. Friday is a major shift. The collective theme for this energy on Friday is I'm taking responsibility for my life. I'm not waiting for motivation. I am building strength. With that Capricorn moon supporting it, it's productive and focused type of energy. Now, watch out for late at night or late in the evening. The moon will opposite Jupiter, oppose Jupiter. So the moon is in Capricorn, Jupiter is retrograde in Cancer. So this can be overdoing something, overpromising, or emotional excess type of energy. The best way to use Friday's energy is to watch out for going from 0 to 100. Like, I need to fix my whole life tonight. I need to change everything today. Watch out for that. You cannot change your whole life in a day. I mean, some people can, but for the most part, most of us can only take it one day at a time. So the best way to use Friday's energy is to write a plan, commit to one habit, and pick a sustainable pace that you can really commit to and, stay consistent with. Saturn entering Aries with the moon in Capricorn. This can feel a bit uncomfortable. The moon in Capricorn squares Aries energy. So this could feel like, going from 0 to 100 really, really fast. but the positive energy or the positive expression is committing to one sustainable thing at a time, taking it one day at a time. Now, Saturday, we have the dark moon phase starting to build. So we start off Saturday feeling disciplined and structured, and then some insecurities might flare up. But don't let your mood on Saturday become your identity. This is asking us to build discipline again, sustainability, be more practical and grounded in the way that we approach things that make us feel uncomfortable, the resistance that we might be seeing in our lives. So earlier on Saturday, if you are having some insecurity flare ups, again, don't let this ruin your whole day. Don't let this ruin your mood, and don't let that become your identity. Just try and be more structured and grounded and practical in your steps and approach to whatever it is you're doing. Now, the moon in Capricorn will form a trine to Uranus, supporting smart pivots, a better plan, and freeing yourself from some sort of stuck pattern that you might have been in. Now, later on Saturday, like in the evening, or late at night when most of us are either out with our friends or going to sleep, the dark moon phase starts to begin. So you might not want to go out with your friends on Saturday. You might feel more reflective, more quiet, more inward, which is kind of the opposite of Aquarius energy. But we have a lot of energy, like Mercury in Pisces, Venus in Pisces. That's introspection and getting grounded in our intuition and possibly getting in some isolation. So don't feel bad on Saturday if you prefer to stay at home and you just want to be isolated. This is supporting some inward reflective energy. It's good to be quiet on Saturday if that's something that you end up doing. And then the moon will form a sextile to Saturn. This is perfect for quiet routines, boundaries, and planning. So the best way to use Saturday's energy is to plan your next week, clean up your schedule, choose minimum commitments on Saturday. Again, I can't stress this enough. Grounded in practical actions towards your goals or whatever it is that you're working on. Now, the last day of this week, Sunday, February the 15th, Aquarius energy. We still have the moon in Aquarius, the dark moon phase, and then the sun in Aquarius will form a square to Uranus. So Sunday is a bit spicy with that sun squaring Uranus. This can bring up sudden changes, breakthroughs, feeling restless, surprises, and feeling more need to rebel, like I need more freedom type of feelings. And then the moon will form a conjunction to Pluto. So this is deep clarity. This is like, I'm done. I've seen enough. It's time to change type of energy on Sunday. So Sunday is best for simplifying your life, simplifying your task, staying flexible, expect some sudden changes and pivots. Also, protecting your nervous system, avoiding doom scrolling, and choosing long-term freedom that's sustainable. Now, some things to watch out for is fighting the urge to change, making impulsive decisions, and drama from like being overstimulated. Watch out if you feel triggered on social media this week. Please, please, please just log off. It's honestly a good week to take a social media break, at least 48 hours to take a break from social media and get grounded in your real life. Now, that's the end of this episode. That is your week, your astrology forecast. We have the final quarter cleanup, a major Saturn shift into Aries, and Aquarius energy building towards change. Again, the best way to use this energy is to keep it simple, keep it practical, release one thing, commit to one structure that is sustainable, and stay flexible where life needs you to pivot and change. So, if this episode has been helpful, make sure you hit that subscribe button. New weekly forecast drops every Monday, and I'll post short form content soon on Instagram and Facebook. I'm also releasing or launching an astrology Discord called Astrology Nerds, where we can talk about these transits and talk about astrology and how this is manifesting in each of our lives personally, building a community around this. So if you love what you hear and you want to join the astrology Discord, make sure you subscribe. And also drop a comment and tell me what placements you have around 20 to 27 degrees of fixed signs, or even a cardinal sign. Or if you have Saturn entering Aries, and it's your Saturn return, make sure you leave a comment and talk about how this energy is manifesting and showing up for you. I love talking about astrology. I love helping people ground themselves in their birth chart. So drop a comment and let me know how this is already hitting you. Until next time, you guys, I love you guys, and I really, really appreciate you for listening and showing your support. Until next time, peace.